guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do some learning about cells, their functions, and some of their structures. Previously we talked about what cells are, what cells do, and where we can find them. However, today we're going to distinguish the two differences between cells, and we're also going to talk about what in cells make them function. Okay, so let's start here with our PowerPoint. Let's get it started. I have passed around some sheets around the classroom that we will be using later on. So let's just hold on to those until we get started. All right. So our objective today is to summarize the structure and function of organelles in eukaryotic cells. This includes their nucleus, the plasma membrane, their cell wall, the mitochondria, the vacuoles, the chloroplasts, and the ribosomes. And we're also going to understand what ways these organelles interact with each other while inside the cells and what do they do to make the cells function. So I have a couple questions. Previously we talked about cells. So I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to answer these questions. On your piece of paper, answer questions 1 through 3. The first question is, what are cells and what do they do? The next question is, what are organelles? And then the last question is, how many cell types did we talk about and what are they called? So I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to get that together. All right, so raise your hand who wants to answer the first question. All right, good job. Correct. The first question is, what are cells and what do they do? Cells are building blocks of all living things, and they carry out the basic functions of life. Now, who wants to answer the next question? All right, the next question is, what are organelles? And you are correct. There are specific structures within the cell that has a specific function to help the cell move, function, and operate. All right, last question. How many cell types are there and what are they called? Great. There are 2 types of cells. One is animal cells and one are plant cells. Great. You guys remember what we talked about previously. So now we're about to go in depth about the organelles that are located within these 2 different cell types. So what I'm going to need you guys to do is go ahead and get that piece of paper that I have for you and hold on to it because you get ready to start filling out those pictures. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to distinguish each organelle, and you should also understand the difference between a plant cell and an animal cell. So we're first going to start off with the animal cell. What are animal cells? Animal cells are eukaryotic cells that are known as the basic function in all living organisms. And a eukaryotic cell is a cell that has a nucleus. There are 2 different types of cells. There's a eukaryotic cell and there's a prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cells do not contain a nucleus, but eukaryotic cells contain a nucleus because in all living organisms you must have a nucleus. What organelles are we going to talk about within these animal cells? We're going to talk about the cell membrane, the plasma membrane, the nucleus, the mitochondria, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, and the Golgi bodies. And we're going to talk about all their functions as well. So on your paper, you have exactly what you see right here on my screen. We have a cross section of an animal cell. So as I'm going, I would like for you to fill out these blank spaces and also fill out the definition of these organelles as well. So first we're going to start off with the nucleus. Does anybody have any idea what the nucleus is? Good job. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. The nucleus also contains the DNA. So that's where all of the basic information known about the cell is located. It's within the DNA. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to write that down. All right. Next, we have the mitochondria. The mitochondria is a little piece of, it looks almost like a little bug. It's a little piece of information that contains energy for the cell. So no cell stays in place. All of our cells move, all of our cells change shape sometimes, and our cells have different functions. So in order for anything within this cell to function, we must have a mitochondria present because it gives the energy for anything to happen within the cell. All right, next we have our ribosomes. Our ribosomes are, it contains protein that the cells need. You know how we need protein to stay alive? We need protein to be strong. We need protein to function. So does our cells. And that's where the protein for our cells are housed are within these little circle things that are called ribosomes. Ribosomes are also found on the endoplasmic reticulum, which we will talk about in a little bit, but that's where the ribosomes are housed, are either inside of the cell or on the endoplasmic reticulum. All right. Next, we have our Golgi bodies. Our Golgi bodies package our proteins and they transport them to the endoplasmic reticulum. So our Golgi bodies are kind of like cars. And think of yourself as a ribosome. You get inside the car and your mom transports you to school every day. So that's what the Golgi body does. The Golgi body protects the proteins and then it takes them to the endoplasmic reticulum where they can function. All right. Then next we have our cell membrane. And what do you guys think the cell membrane does? Good job. So part of the cell membrane's function is to keep everything in place, but it also controls what comes in and out of the cell. So it controls what it wants to bring into the cell. So say if something bad wants to come into the cell that the cell does not like, then the cell membrane keeps everything together, all the other organelles together within the cell, and it does not allow for these bad things to come into the cell. However, it can take the good things out of the cell and take them somewhere else. Sometimes when cells come together and merge, some of the ribosomes or the other organelles can function and transfer into the other cells. However, we'll talk about that later. And the last important organelle of an animal cell is our plasma membrane. And our plasma membrane allows the cells to move. So the cell as a whole, it can move. It doesn't have to be still. And it also protects the cell as well. So it may protect the cell from anything else within the body, while the cell membrane protects all of the organelles from anything bad that's small or that can affect the cell really bad. So the plasma membrane and the cell membrane work together really well to keep anything bad outside of the cell. All right, and are there any questions about these 6 organelles? All right, so now our animal cells are less complex than our plant cells. Our plant cells do a lot more for the environment, so they require a lot more organelles and they require a lot more functional aspects to the cells so that they can provide humans with the necessary oxygen and other things that they need. So we're going to talk about those organelles next. So a little bit about a plant cell. Plant cells are also eukaryotic cells. However, they are not found in animals, and they are not found in any living things except for a plant. Plant cells are found exactly in plants, and that's the only place you will find these plant cells at. And plants can range from anything like algae in the water, the plants you see outside, the grass, things of that nature. Those are all considered plants. So there's a couple of things that distinguishes or that helps you tell the difference between an animal cell and a plant cell. One, plant cell has a cell wall. So just like the animal cell and the plasma membrane, it has something to protect them from other things. However, the cell wall has a lot more structure. So plant cells do not move as much as animal cells, and the cell wall is a lot harder than a plant cell. So if something bad wants to come into the plant cell, it's going to have a much harder time getting into the plant cell than it would into an animal cell. Next, plant cells they carry out photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is how we breathe. So lights hit plants, and then the specific organelle inside the plants processes the light, and it turns into energy for us to breathe, and the energy turns to oxygen and a bunch of other things. So it collects the light, and then the organelle switches it from light to energy, and then the energy is released throughout the plant cell. So now the organelles that we're going to talk about within the plant cell. Oh, I have animal there. It should be plant. Sorry, guys. Within the plant cell is a cell wall, a cell membrane, the nucleus, chloroplast, mitochondria, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, a vacuole, and Golgi bodies. So pull out the sheet that has the plant cell on it, and let's fill in those blanks. Okay, so we just talked about a cell wall. So tell me what a cell wall does, or what the function of the cell wall is. Good job. The cell wall protects the outside of the plant cell. Next, we have a nucleus. We talked about a nucleus. Can someone tell me what the nucleus does? Good job. The nucleus houses the DNA, and it controls everything that goes on within the cell. Good, you guys are listening. Next, we're going to do the mitochondria. So as you see, some of these organelles are repeating themselves. So both the plant cell and the animal cell can have some of the same organelles because they are both eukaryotic cells. A lot of eukaryotic cells have the same exact organelles in them. So what is the function of the mitochondria? Good. It provides energy into the plant cell. Next, what is the function of the endoplasmic reticulum? Good. So it does house our ribosomes, and it also transports those ribosomes to the rest of the cell. It transports ribosomes and other nutrients that the cell needs around the rest of the cell. All right, next, our cell membrane. Can someone tell me what the cell membrane's function is? Right, that's a good observation. So it is similar to the plasma membrane. The only difference is that the plasma membrane and in the animal cell, the plasma membrane and the cell membrane works together. In this instance, the cell wall and the cell membrane do not work together. However, they have the same functions. All right, next are our ribosomes. Somebody tell me what the ribosomes do? Good. The ribosomes produce the protein and they are found on the endoplasmic reticulum. Good job. Next are chloroplasts, and this is something different that's not found in animal cell, but I spoke about it earlier. However, our chloroplast converts light from the sun into energy. So what happens is light, the sun shines on the grass or the plant or whatever it is, and then it converts that to energy, but instead of keeping that energy, it releases that energy back into the atmosphere to produce many other things. It's used to help with oxygen and a ton of other things that humans need to survive. Yes, and that process is called photosynthesis. Good job. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, another new thing found in the plant cell is our vacuole, and that's used to store and transport nutrients. So I kind of have it blocked here, but it is oh snap. But it is this big piece that you see back here on the back of your paper. It's that really big thing. It looks funny, but is used to is used to store and transport nutrients. So the nutrients that it gets from the endoplasmic reticulum, it holds it there because sometimes it doesn't need to release it, sometimes it does. And whatever it does not need to release, it holds. It's just like our body. We eat something and our body holds the nutrients until it's time to release them, or if it's not supposed to be released, it just continues to store it. So it's just a storage space for good things that the cell needs. All right. Next is our Golgi bodies. We talked about that also. And our Golgi bodies do what? Good. They package proteins and they transport the proteins to the endoplasmic reticulum. Do you guys have any questions about plant cells? Correct. So the question was, what is the biggest differences between, or the question was, are the cell wall and the chloroplast the two main things that make a plant and animal cell different? And they are. Those are the two most important organelles that distinguishes the two cell types from each other. Any more questions? All right, so now we're going to do a little review. Let's see what you guys can remember, okay? So the first question is, what organelle contains the DNA of the cell? Good job, the nucleus. All right, next question. Name one difference between the plant cell and the animal cell. We just talked about this. Good, the cell wall. Next, which cell has a cell wall? Good job, the plant cell. And the final question is, what type of cells are plant and animal cells? Yes, eukaryotic cells. They are eukaryotic cells. Good job, guys. So do you guys have any more questions? Great. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go home and you guys should study the organelles and their function, because tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to do a method called concept mapping. And what's going to happen with that is I'm going to give you guys an organelle per group, and you guys are going to tell me 5 things that can help you remember the function of the organelle. Okay? All right. Good job, guys. You guys did well. See you guys tomorrow.